Hello guys, welcome to another video of Azure DevOps CI/CD. In this video, we are going to integrate AWS Toolkit with Azure DevOps. Also, we'll understand how you can deploy your hybrid cloud resources, or if you have multi-cloud setup for your resources in your project, how you can achieve deployment using Azure DevOps CI/CD pipelines. If you have to deploy that in Azure or AWS or even in hybrid cloud, how you can achieve that. Okay, so we'll be creating CI/CD pipeline today where we'll be integrating AWS. We can see how you can deploy AWS resources, how you can create the EC2 instances, how you can deploy your cloud formation template, and how you can run AWS CLI commands as well. Okay, so if you have scenario like to deploy your resources in multi-cloud environments, both in Azure as well as AWS, you can go ahead and watch this tutorial for understanding. Okay, before we start, we'll have to install the extension for AWS in Azure DevOps. For that, you can just simply log in into your Azure DevOps account, go to organization settings, and inside this, you can click on extensions, and here you will have to install this extension, that is AWS Toolkit for Azure DevOps. Okay, I have this installed already, so you can see it here. If you don't have, you can go to Marketplace and install this extension for you. Okay, you can click on get it free and you will be able to install this extension. These are some of the features of this extension. Like you will be able to interact with AWS CLI, you will be able to deploy with code deploy, you will be able to upload, download from S3 bucket, you will be able to use the Lambda functions and many other things which you can see here inside the highlighted features. Okay, let's now go ahead in Azure DevOps pipeline and see how you can use this. Once you have installed this extension, you'll be able to see this AWS toolkit for Azure DevOps inside the installed extensions list inside your organization setting extensions. Okay, now let's go to pipeline and try to create one pipeline. Click on new pipeline, select your repository. Let's select the YAML pipeline. Select any of the repositories, suppose Terraform ADO, and select the starter pipeline. So here inside the steps, you can add multiple steps related to your work or task. And to use the AWS related task, you can click on the show assistant and you can search for the task here. If you simply search AWS, you'll be able to get all the tasks related to AWS. Okay, you can see we are getting Amazon ECR pool and Amazon S3 download. There are multiple tasks related to AWS cloud here inside the task inside your AWS task list. Okay, and finally you get the Terraform task as well. If you have Terraform configuration files, or if you want to create your AWS infrastructure resources using Terraform, you can use this extension as well to run Terraform configuration file from your Azure DevOps pipeline inside the AWS cloud. Okay, we'll see some of the tasks which are being here. Suppose if you want to pull a Docker image from Amazon Elastic Container Registry, you can select this. Suppose you have selected this, you will have to use the AWS credentials. For this, you will have to create the AWS service connection by going here in the project setting and service connections. click on new service connection and select the AWS. If you select it, you will have to provide access key ID, secret access key, all the things, and service connection name and create it. So that one AWS service connection will be created. If you want to create service connection for Terraform, you can select this AWS for Terraform and select this or create this service connection. For this, you'll have to provide the access key ID, secret access key, region, and all, and you will be able to create the service connection. Service connection we create to provide access to your pipeline for the cloud where you want to deploy the resources. In this case, we are trying to deploy the resources in AWS, so we'll have to create the service connection for your AWS cloud. Okay. So like this test hyphen AWS hyphen com, this is my AWS service connection already created. So I have selected this. You can select the AWS region as well. Whatever region you have, you can select it. Suppose you want to deploy that in East region, you can select it. Provide the repository name where your repository exists. Suppose your repository is name is test ECB, something like this. Just provide it. Okay. From here, your image will be pulled. If you want to pull the image with tag, you can select the image tag and provide your tag here. Okay. And just click on add. So one task will be added to pull your image directly from here. Let's add this task here inside the steps. So this task we have used to pull the Docker image from your container registry. Okay, that is nothing but this registry, this repository inside your AWS cloud. Like this, we have multiple tasks available related to AWS. Like if you want to push the Docker image inside your Elastic Container Registry, you will be able to use this command. Select your credentials, your region. If you want to push image ID, you can do that, or if you want to provide the source image name, you can do that as well. Select the tag as well. Suppose you want to provide the 1.6 tag, target repository name, something like this, and target repository tag. We have some of the options as well, like create repository. If it does not exist, you can select based on the requirement and click on add. So this task will go ahead and it will push your Docker image from your agent machine to your AWS cloud registry. Okay, we have other tasks as well, like if you have S3 bucket, and if you want to download the content from that S3 bucket, you'll be able to use this Amazon S3 download task here. Like this, we have Amazon S3 upload as well. You can use all these tasks based on your requirement. Suppose you have to download some files inside your machine to process it further, or to use that, you can use this Amazon S3 download task. Okay, add the source folder. Suppose this is ABCD, something like that. Add the file name patterns, the whatever the files you want to download, and add the target folder, something like system.default working directory. Okay, click on add. So this will add one task related to S3 download. You can see the task name here. Inside this line, S3 download, ECR push image, ECR pull image as well. Okay, so like this we get multiple tasks. If you simply search here, this task we can use to upload your uh, files or folders inside S3 bucket. This command you can use to run the AWS CLI commands inside your AWS cloud from Azure DevOps pipeline. Whatever command you want to run, you can run it from here. Suppose you just I'm just assigning random commands. Suppose this is your command, you can add it, or you can suppose simply just type AWS help. This is AWS CLI command, which will just tell you all the instruction and all the commands which you can work with. If you have some command, you can provide it. If you have some options or parameters for this command, you can supply it from here. Okay, you can add it so that this AWS CLI task will run this command inside your AWS cloud. Using this, you can deploy your resources as well. You will be able to create any kind of resources inside your AWS using the AWS CLI task. You will be able to achieve everything, almost everything inside AWS, either create the EC2 instances, S3 bucket, or load balancers, something like that. Okay, AWS CLI is nothing but kind of, you can say, Azure CLI in case of Azure cloud. Let's type again and see what are other things we get. These are some of the tasks related to CloudFormation. So if you are using CloudFormation inside your AWS, you can use this task based on your requirement for the CloudFormation. This task you can use to deploy an application to Amazon EC2 instance using AWS Code Deploy. These are some of the tasks which are self-explanatory. You can use them to use that. Okay, this you can use to deploy an application to Amazon EC2 instance using AWS Elastic Beanstalk. Okay, like this you'll be able to use this task AWS Lambda.NET Core to build, deploy, and package a .NET Core AWS Lambda function to one serverless application. Suppose you have uh, one Lambda function with .NET, you can use this task to build that and deploy it. Suppose that is inside this region. If deployment type is function, you can select the function. If that is serverless application, you can select it, or you can select the function. You can select this create deployment package only if you want to just create the deployment package. If you can see, if selected, the task create the output for the selected deployment type but does not perform the deployment to AWS Lambda or CloudFormation. So let's uncheck it. You can provide the path to your Lambda project inside your agent machine. Okay, suppose that is inside packages. You can provide something like this, and related to your Lambda function properties, you'll be able to add the function name, function role, other things as well. Suppose this is your function name, you can add the things here. Once that is added, you will be able to just add this task lambda.net code deploy function here inside the Azure pipeline. So these are some of the pipelines, tasks, or steps which we have added here. Like this, we get multiple steps as well. We have used all of these AWS Lambda deploy function. You can use this to deploy functions inside AWS Lambda. If you want to invoke your AWS Lambda function directly from Azure pipeline, you can use this task. If you want to store the secrets, create the secrets, or update the secrets, you can use this task as well. So if you are installing this AWS toolkit, generally you get almost all the tasks related to AWS. You'll be able to achieve anything inside your AWS cloud using Azure pipelines. Okay, if you have AWS shell script, you can use this command to run the shell script inside your AWS environment. Okay, if you have to run PowerShell script inside AWS, you'll be able to use this command to run the PowerShell as well. Okay, or if you have some Terraform commands, or if you have Terraform configuration file which you want to deploy inside the AWS cloud, you can always select it. Select the AWS, select the command, configuration directory. You will have to add the AWS service connection, bucket details, key details as well for your to store your storage files, or you can say state files. You'll have to create the service connection, you'll have to select the bucket, and you'll have to add the file name, that is suppose something like this. You'll have to add the bucket. We don't have bucket at the moment, that's why it is not saying. Let's add it. So like this, you'll be this Terraform task will be added inside your AWS cloud, inside your Azure pipeline, and it will deploy all the resources which you might have inside your repository and Terraform configuration file inside your AWS cloud. Simply you can save this pipeline and run it so that it will deploy all the resources or whatever task you might have configured here inside your pipeline based on your requirement inside the AWS cloud. Okay, like this we get multiple tasks related to AWS. You can use this to deploy your resources in AWS, and if you have the requirement to deploy both in AWS and Azure, you can add all the tasks related to Azure as well in the same pipeline. Okay, if you want to deploy the template deployment, you can use ARM template deployment. There are multiple tasks related to Azure as well. If you have to deploy Azure functions, you can use this task as well to deploy into the Azure functions. Related to Azure, we get multiple tasks inside the uh, Azure DevOps. But if you want to use the AWS related task, if you want to set up CI/CD pipeline for AWS cloud, you will have to install this extension. Then only you will be able to use all of these tasks inside your pipelines. Okay, I have given some of the examples of some of the tasks, how you can use them inside your pipelines. Like this, you will be able to use all of the AWS related tasks which are listed here based on your requirement. Okay, that's it from this video. We have covered everything about AWS cloud, how you can set up the pipeline, CI/CD pipeline for your AWS cloud from the Azure DevOps pipelines. Okay, if you have any questions or suggestions, please let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching.